That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Stillwater, the seventh film directed by Tom McCarthy, which Focus Features is releasing July 30th, 2021. Just had its world premiere outside of the competition at the 2021 Cannes Film Festival.
I know nothing about this film. Is it related to Stillwater, Minnesota?
No, Stillwater, Oklahoma is the reference. And it also has something to do with the pertinent necklace in the film.
What genre is it?
It's a thriller. It's imagine if Amanda Knox had been convicted and left to rot in jail.
Oh,
So
I'd watch that.
I knew little about it other than
This was a Cannes screening?
no, this was because it's coming out this week.
Oh, and the director?
Tom McCarthy.
What has this person done?
You know his film Spotlight, which won Best Picture.
That's a Jennifer Hudson now, right?
Yes.
Chord for you all. I did like Spotlight.
But
I could actually rewatch Spotlight.
Spotlight's okay. But prior to that, he had a one. He's an actor.
Who's the lady in Spotlight?
Rachel McAdams. He's an
That's right.
actor turned director who in the early 2000s had like The Station Agent, which is fine, Win-Win, which I hated. He did a terrible Adam Sandler movie right before Spotlight called The Cobbler. Anyhow, this notably is written by Thomas Bidegain and Noé Debré, along with Marcus Hinchey. But the first two of those are French writers, directors who wrote Jacques Audiard's Dheepan, which won the Palme d'Or. That film I'm not so much of a fan of, but Bidegain's directorial, I think, debut, or one of his first films that he directed called Les Cowboys back in 2015 is quite watching. It's kind of a retooled The Searchers, which I can't stand John Wayne, but John Ford's The Searchers is really good. But so Les Cowboys, I was excited to see how they mixed with Tom McCarthy what they would come up with. And it turns out it's a mostly good film that's in the vein of Clint Eastwood when he's closer to his A game, is what it felt like to me.
So, can you provide a synopsis that will sell this movie to us?
I'm not trying to sell it to anybody. I'm just trying to explain what I thought.
Well, can you describe the film, though?
Matt Damon plays a man named Bill Baker who's in construction. We slowly piece together, because if you know nothing about this film, it doesn't automatically announce what it is. But he is... he's looking for work. He's in construction. It seems like he's a little bit down and out. He has a kind of a kindly interaction with a woman named Sharon, played by Deanna Dunagan, who looks a lot like a Gish sister, who is his dead wife's, she committed suicide, mother. And all of a sudden he's on a trip to Marseille. And then all of a sudden he's visiting somebody in prison who ends up being his daughter, Allison, played by Abigail Breslin. And then we kind of learn in about this period of the film that she served a 5-year prison sentence because she was convicted of killing her lover/roommate, a young Arab girl.
She's a lesbian?
She's a lesbian.
Ooh.
And upon usually the one that's kind of been helping her is her grandmother, who's now too ill to travel. So it's clear that she thinks her dad is a little bit useless. He's this blue-collar, kind of a redneck, but an affable sort of guy. He speaks French haltingly, kind of in a pattern of like Brad Pitt in Inglourious Basterds saying "Arrivederci," and then she passes him a note in French, says, "Can you please give this to my lawyer," who's played by Anne Lanai. So he goes to the lawyer, gives her the note, and the lawyer's like, no, don't give your daughter false hope. Whatever she's written here in French, I can't help her. Meanwhile, he's made friendly with Camille Cottin from Call My Agent and her young daughter Maya, who've been living in the Best Western next to him while she waits for her new apartment. He's made friendly with her. She translates the note for him. It turns out that Allison has come upon new information. Something like an old professor at the university which she was at was told by another student at a party that some boy had admitted to getting away with stabbing a girl named Akeem, which sets him off on a search in Marseille for Akeem. And that is kind of the thrust of the film.
Well, does he find him?
He does find him. Yeah, so major spoiler alert. He gets beat up bad by these kids. He ends up living with Camille Cottin. 4 months later, he has a chance. He has chances to see Akeem after all this agonizing search for him. Beats him down and locks him in the basement of the building he lives in with Virginie, Camille Cottin, and then has found a private investigator he's given a hair sample to and says, can you match this DNA to this unknown DNA at the crime site? The private investigator kind of catches on, though, that he probably is holding this person captive. And the cops come looking, searching in this basement that he lives in, anticipating they'll find this young man held captive there. But right before it happens, Virginie discovers what he's done and releases the young man, who absconds into the wilderness. But it is a DNA match, which allows for Allison to be released. But because Camille is upset at his actions, she says, you can't live with me any longer, and then Matt Damon ends up back in Oklahoma with his daughter.
So let me make sure I understand. A man's daughter is in prison for killing her roommate. So the dad goes to try to find who really did it.
There you go.
And he does. Mm-hmm. So he gets his daughter off the hook.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
There's the short log line.
Yes, that's what I was looking for. But it sounds interesting.
It was interesting enough. And then there's the gag is, though, however, that the daughter...
Yeah, what's the gag?
The daughter...
You gotta punch it. Come on. What's the gag? I'm excited.
The daughter was involved with Akeem because she had broken up with her girlfriend who was still living with her, and she hired Akeem by promising this gold necklace that says Stillwater that her father gave her if he can get Lena out. And of course, she claims when she's confronted finally about it at the very end that by getting out, she didn't want Lena to die. She just wanted Akeem to extract her from the apartment. So I think
so she's kind of responsible.
She is kind of responsible.
But she didn't tell him to kill her.
According to her, but you can't trust this bitch.
But you can't make someone kill someone either, right?
No, but here's how this doesn't really make sense after that. The way that it's presented, that after 5 years of staying in prison, she offers forth this ghost named Akeem that she has to find some very complicated way to allow investigators to go talk to some roommate of a classmate of a blah, blah, blah. When it's like, that if they catch Akeem, he's going to say that you hired him to do this. And this necklace that you paid him with is missing. Anyhow, so that doesn't make sense. And I think the film shies away from being really leaning into that darkness of how this could be a really good neo-noir about this father doing all of this bullshit to free his daughter when she's actually guilty.
Was it as good as like an average episode of Dateline?
No.
Oh, dang.
No, because it has a terrible score by Michael Dana, who won an Oscar for scoring Life of Pi, that really is trying to sell this as kind of a, he spends a lot of time with his romance with Camille Cottin. They do have, it's probably pronounced Cottin, but they do have good chemistry together, but that's not what's interesting about the film. What's interesting is kind of the darkness beneath.
Does Matt Damon look good?
Yeah, of course he looks good.
Well, not of course.
Well, he's a good looking man.
Is he? Okay.
But which is why it feels kind of like a Clint Eastwood version of a more interesting story.
What else didn't you like about it?
Well, they really lean into Matt Damon's Christianity, and he's always praying and indoctrinating everyone else with his prayers. But he's also a recovering addict, which again, the darkness is more interesting. It's clear that he's using his religion to kind of as a way to keep his longings for drugs and alcohol at bay. But this salt of the earth persona that they give him, there's a more interesting way to have told the story, I think.
Sure.
Which is why I was excited about Bidegain and Debré on the screenwriting team, because I thought it would be a lot more like Les Cowboys, which I think is quite a dark film. And then, of course, it does do a fine job of presenting France as this nation that's also very racially divided with the Arab and Algerian community. There's a shop owner that's a decent enough scene where he's like, show me the picture you want. I'll say he's the guilty one, because they're all guilty of something. It's like, and then paired with some of her friends being concerned that Matt Damon's character is a Trump supporter, etc. Turns out he couldn't vote because he's an ex-con. It's, again, all these details there that could have probably made for a more compelling statement, perhaps.
Okay. What else you got?
It was shot by Masanobu Takayanagi, who shot Hostiles, Warrior, The Silver Linings Playbook. I think it's mostly set in Marseille, and it looks fine enough. Again, for 2 hours and 20 minutes.
2 hours, 20 minutes? Okay.
It's a bit long in the tooth, and I think we could have, kicked it up a notch in several departments. But overall, it's interesting.
What would you give it?
I would give it 3 out of 5 is fair.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Bye.
Bye.